Yeah, sorry about that. I'm I'm going to make a start. I'm recording the session so that those people who can't make it this evening for whatever reason, I'll send them a copy of the session. So my phone was just going off there because I live in St Albans, and St Albans City, the football club, is just 100 yards from my house, and they're through to the first round of the FA Cup, and they're currently on the BBC, and they're winning 3-2 with 5 minutes to go. I will send you a copy of the recording afterwards. I'll do that by email, by registering. I've captured your email address, so I will send you an email probably tomorrow morning, but you will get a recording, that's for sure. So I hope that answers that question. So I've said I'm from St Albans, and I'm curious to know where people are in the country or in the world today. So where's everybody? Where's everybody coming from? Newcastle. Very good, Melissa. Welcome. Jobin from India. London, Glasgow. Oh, Glasgow must be under lockdown from France. Très bien. Oh, Zanzibar. Very good. Very good. Hello, Audrey. Welcome. Yeah, very good. So you can see how the chat works, and you can see that I can see the chat. So as we're going through, if there is something that screams out at you that you want to talk to me about, then please feel free to use the chat. Saltburn. Hello, Catherine. Welcome from Saltburn. West Sussex. Yeah, my wife's family. Got family. Hello, Betsy. Storrington is the Wilson and the Fetch household. And Sandra from Jamaica. Wow. Fantastic. Welcome, everybody. Anyway, so my name is Tom Clendon, and this is just an hour's session just to give you a little bit of flavor and free support in respect of SBR. And I'm assuming that you're probably going to be doing SBR in the December sitting. So I want to start with a little bit of introduction. I want to introduce myself to you, for example. I want to give you a little bit of free information about what's a current issue, so a little bit of lecture, a little bit of a soundbite, and I want to spend some time looking at the ACCA practice platform to actually show you how that works and begin to work a past examination question. So forensic, yeah, no, sorry, that was my earlier error. It was only ever going to be an hour. I've got another one that I'm running. I've already, this is the third one I'm running this evening. So I ran one earlier. I've got to run another one later because of the numbers involved. So yeah, it is an hour session. That's the plan. So I will leave time, I hope, for any general questions and answers that we can deal with at the end. But as I say, I can see the chat as we go through. So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Tom, and you're doing these ACCA exams, and I did them as well. I did them when I was in my early 20s, and I qualified here in the UK whilst I was working for KPMG. But I found that working in practice was not really what I was about, and that got me involved in teaching fairly soon. And I ended up working for Kaplan. Well, actually, I ended up working for Emil Wolf, and then it was financial training, and then we became Kaplan. So I spent 20, 30 years in London teaching, but liaising very much with ACCA. I was the sort of Kaplan person who ran the London ACCA office and dealt with ACCA. But I left Kaplan about 6 years ago, and I went to live and work in Singapore. Had a fantastic time there teaching across the region, Southeast Asia. And when I came back, I wanted to do something slightly different. So I got involved in this online learning with Avado and then with FME Online, where I've been doing this for 2 or 3 years now. Really exciting. And obviously the pandemic came along as well, which accelerated the interest. So I continue to work with ACCA. I do various webinars for them and consultations in the background. I have a podcast, which I hope, if you're not aware of, you need to be aware of, because it's a free resource out there all about SBR. And you're probably aware that I'm active on LinkedIn. And again, that's a place where I post content and information about SBR. So that's me. All right, that's me. That's what I am. I live, I breathe, I do SBR. That's what I do. All right, I help students pass SBR. So I suppose I would like to know a little bit more about you. And one way of me learning a little bit of information about you is to ask you a question. And there's no right or wrong answer to these questions. It's a poll question that's appearing. I'm not going to track it or trace it or anything like that. I'm just curious as to the people we've got attending tonight, how many virgins we've got who haven't done SBR before, how many people who are resitting, and how many people here are a little bit out of here out of curiosity. So let me just give you 2 more seconds or 3 more seconds to answer the question, and then I'm going to end the poll. 3, 2, 1, end the poll. And, I can see that, 60% of you are doing SBR for the first time. So you're in for a shock. You're in for a treat. You're in for a challenge. All right. And you're right to be taking advantage of my time here this evening. You're right to be putting in some commitment now, to enable you to pass that exam. 25% of you are resitting. And if you're resitting, then somehow on some level internally, you've got to ask yourself what it is that you're going to be doing differently this time to get a different result. And that involves perhaps some personal and honest reflection. And if you want support in thinking about that, then WhatsApp me, contact me directly, and I'll be able to, give you some advice on that, specific to your circumstances. And there's half a dozen of you here who are curious about SBR, curious about me perhaps, and I'm not doing the exam. That's fair enough, but you're welcome anyway. What else am I curious to know about you as a cohort of people on this Sunday evening? I'm interested in what your relationship is with the ACCA's CBE Test Reach practice platform. Is it something that is an integral part of your life? Is it something that you're using in revision? Is it something that you've looked at once or twice? Or you actually don't know what I'm talking about? So let me just give you another moment or two to answer that poll. Just let me give you 5 more seconds. 5, 2, 1, 4, 3. And I am pleased that 40% of you, 39% of you are using the practice platform as part of your revision. And the rest of you need to do that. Come on. You're going to do this exam on the practice platform. You're going to do the actual exam using the same software, the same functionality as is freely available to you as ACCA members. If you're taking a driving test, if you're taking a driving test to drive a car, you don't practice on a bicycle. You don't practice on an automatic if you're going to be taking the car, if you're going to be taking the test in a shift stick, in a manual. You've got to make sure. St Albans City are playing tonight in the FA Cup, in the first round of the FA Cup. They're playing 100 yards from my house. And they're playing at home. They're playing at Clarence Park. And it's their home ground. I want, and they're going to win. And they're more likely to win because they're playing at home. And I want you to win when it comes to the SBR exam. And you will win because the practice platform will be your home, will be where you've practiced questions. Because if you don't practice, you will find it clunky, you will find it awkward. The exam is a stressful situation enough as it is. And so I'm pleased with those of you who are using the practice platform, those of you who have confessed to only using it once or twice. How brilliant that I'm able to encourage you and support you in using it over the next month or two. Yeah, so no more set. Please, please take my advice and make sure that you use the practice platform. Right. Yeah, some of you are with Kaplan. Now you've got to be a little bit careful if you're with Kaplan or First Intuition or BPP, because they have their own computer systems, but they're not the same as the ACCA practice platform. So not only have you got to use their systems to do their mocks and their homework, but you've also got to make sure that you use the ACCA's practice platform, because you will not do the actual exam using their systems. You'll be using the ACCA systems. So again, this analogy of driving test, you take your driving test in the car that you are most familiar with. Oh, I'm getting some interesting results here. I'm getting some interesting results, which I'm about to share with you. But I've still got a couple of people who haven't got off the fence. Come on, get off the fence. What sort of person are you? Yeah. 3 more seconds. 1, 3, 2. I don't like, when I was a student, I didn't like doing mocks. So I get the fact that some of you hate doing them. I get that fact. Yeah, 22% of you are saying, I don't really like them because they're hard, that you feel a failure. That's not it. I need to make you love mocks. The majority of you are signed up, dedicated students who realize that doing a mock exam is an integral part of your revision. And that is fantastic. That is fantastic. No professional sports team, so every professional sports team plays friendlies behind closed doors, training sessions, before the real game, so that they can practice things, make mistakes, and be at their best for the real game. It makes sense for you to do mock exams. I applaud the majority here who are taking mock seriously, because I take mock seriously, very, very seriously, because I know, as an educator, I know the difference that it makes. The difference that it makes. So thank you for humoring me. Thank you for taking part in those questions. Now, a couple of things. I want to talk to you and give you some information about sustainability reporting around COP26. I had a meeting with the examiner recently, and he confirmed, and it wasn't really news, but he confirmed that the current issue that was going to be tested time and time and time again was the regulation around sustainability reporting. Now, in the last week or so, there has been a new international accounting standards body formed called the International Sustainability Standards Board. And it's been formed with the support of the IASB. So the IASB has clearly a track record of producing accounting standards, and it so makes sense that the IASB are going to be involved in producing accounting standards on sustainability. Now, strictly speaking, so far as your exam is concerned, you're not going to get involved in having to explain about the International Accounting Standards, Sustainability Standards Board, but I'm telling you that it's there as a current issue. And if you want to come and do SBR with me in 2 years' time, if you want to fail the exam and come back, then there's going to be more standards to learn. Yeah. Now, Mukta, that's fine. Don't worry about your spelling. Don't worry about your spelling. Do not write your answer in the, do not write your narrative answer in the Excel spreadsheet response area. Don't do that. Waste of time, inappropriate, unprofessional. There are two response areas, Word and the spreadsheet. If you're writing words, write in the Word response area. Yeah. So, you know, it's a big area. And for me, I've decided to, you know, sign up for being carbon neutral. So for my business, I don't heat, I'm at home. So I don't have offices. I'm an online lecturer. You haven't traveled to come to this session, and I'm not handing out books. So actually my carbon footprint is relatively small, but I've taken the step not to say I'm going to offset it by 2030. I'm offsetting it now, planting trees. So this is a guilt-free experience that you can be having. If we're going to talk about sustainability reporting, one of the issues around that is whether or not what's being reported should be regulated. And I guess that slightly depends on whether you're a libertarian who thinks that there's too much government, too much interference, and the markets should be left to themselves, or whether you're an interventionist, social democrat who believes that the markets need to have some form of regulation. Now, ultimately, as we've seen, the right answer or the conclusion is we're going to have regulation. But you've got to justify the conclusion, and you've got to be prepared to explain and debate and answer the question. So let's have a look at some of the advantages of no regulation. If there's no regulation, you can do what you want. And if you can do what you if you help, what's happened here? Why has there been a technological stop? Are we back on board? Are we back on board? Can you hear me again now? Yes. Do I sound like a robot? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sounding like a robot. We're back on board. Hey, fantastic. Thank you, Adams. Yeah, excellent. Thank you, John, Jobin. Okay. So there are advantages to there being an absence of regulation, because it means that people can express themselves, that companies can be innovative and create very tailor-made specific reports to their business model. And therefore, through competition, best practice can emerge. So there are advantages to the absence of regulation. It's the law of the jungle. The fittest survive. Yeah, that's the theory anyway. But actually, if you don't have regulation, not everybody does it. If you don't have regulation, you've got no comparability. If you don't have regulation, you've got a vacuum. You don't move things forward. If we want a world that is carbon neutral, we need to measure it. We need to report on it. If we want a sustainability about our business, we've got to measure it. We've got to report it. Not just one business, not just the nice business, but every business. So arguably we do need regulation, because the advantage of regulation is that everybody has to do it, that it brings comparability. You've got better transparency. You've got a more efficient working of the capital markets. The capital markets need information. If you're going to allocate capital, if you're going to be, if you're using the capitalist system, then we want money to be invested and used in the right way to give to the green companies that's going to make a difference to the world. And so we need the information about which companies are more efficient and better. Yeah. But of course, there are some disadvantages to regulation. And the disadvantages to regulation is that we give up, that we don't have our heart and soul in it, that we see it as a tick box scenario, that we just go through the motions, that we just cut and paste and say that we're doing things, and we think about it as red tape. We think about it as imposing a cost, not something that is inspiring us and that we really believe in. So there's a debate around whether or not there should be regulation. Now, the outcome of that debate, I've told you already. The International Accounting Standards Board and the ACCA are fully behind regulation in this area, because we want compliance, we want comparability. Yeah, we want to move it forward, and regulation helps move it forward. That's the theory. That's the theory. Ooh. There we are. That's a little bit better in the lighting, isn't it? Right. So, yeah, that's the theory. So now there are red tape's going to be green tape. Very good. Very good. Very good. Challenges arising with sustainability reporting. What are the issues that are facing? What form does it take? Different businesses will have very different business models. I've told you my business model. I'm an online lecturer. I've got a very low carbon footprint. Football clubs. There was a game recently played. Tottenham had a game where they advertised it as the Premiership's first carbon neutral, sustainable game. They did some offsetting as well. But if you're going to get involved in sustainability reporting, you're running risks. You've got challenges that you're not giving TMI. TMI? Too much information. If you look at a real life set of accounts, they're 200 pages long anyway. And what we're then providing is more information. So maybe you're going to switch some people off. Maybe one of the challenges with segmental reporting is to avoid boilerplating. Boilerplating is where you cut and paste. Boilerplating is where the report isn't really personalized or bespoke. It's just words that have been dumped down and no one's really read them, no one's really understood them, and it's not properly contextualized. And so it's like, ugh, it's just a whole kind of dump, and it's not good. That is a challenge. That is a risk. There's also a risk that you're going to raise expectations and start reporting how wonderful, who's got the best environmental report? It's probably an oil company, isn't it? And you think about the irony of all of that. Greenwashing. Amazon, let me give you a small example on Amazon. I mean, you can just check this out on social media if you want, but Amazon do adverts, don't they? Or I've seen Amazon do adverts where you've got a woman engineer on the roof of a warehouse, and it's all the the shields, the solar panels are there, and saying, oh, we're using renewable energy, and all the Amazon delivery vans are all on electric things. Oh, great, fantastic. Yeah, Amazon, what a great company. At the same time, however, a couple of months ago, there was an investigation here in the UK by the BBC, which dealt with what happens when you return something to Amazon. So you buy it's the wrong size, you send it back. And when you send it back, what do Amazon do? The investigation found they just put it in landfill, that they didn't bother recycling or reusing it. Yes, Nida, this is being recorded, and a copy of the recording will be sent out to everybody who signed up for this session, because some people haven't made it, and for other people, I know it's very late or very early because of time differences. Other people have meals to prepare and whatever. So yes, this session is being recorded, and I will send out a copy of it to those people who signed up, and I'll do that tomorrow. So the challenges arising around sustainability: what do you disclose? What's your form? What's your content? And that depends on your business model. How do you make sure that you don't give too much information? And how do you make sure that you're not involved in boilerplating, cut and paste and whatever, but also that you're not going to then, it's not going to backfire on you. It's not going to be a ticking time bomb. Because if you are going to report and saying that you're good, you can't just be something that's a bolt-on. It's got to physically embody the culture of the whole organization. Yeah. For it to be authentic. Many companies do sustainability reports, and presumably they do sustainability reports because they believe that it's a good thing to do, that it benefits them in some way. And from an academic point of view, I think we should be aware at this level that producing a set of numbers that relate to last year's performance doesn't satisfy the information needs of users. That users are, there is a reporting gap between what we say, what we explain to users, and what they want to hear. And they want to hear about sustainability reporting. They want to know whether we're a green company or not, whether we thought about the risks of climate change, whether we're contributing, whether we're part of the problem or whether we're part of the solution. Investors want to know about that. Our employees want to know about that. Our stakeholders want to know about that. You want to know about that. It's a very topical, current issue. So by producing a sustainability report, we're giving more information. We're de-risking the investment. If you're an investor, you want to know more about the company. And the more you know about the company, the less risk you will have when it comes to investing in that company. Yeah. And it's not just about investors, it's about staff, and it's about the supply chain as well. Because you want to do business with a green company. And if you're a, excuse me, if you're a large company, I was looking at the accounts of Tesco's, and they push down their values and their standards onto their suppliers, down the supply chain. So they want to engage with other businesses who also uphold their values. They don't want to get involved in, dirty businesses. So if you want to win a contract from a government, from the UN, from Tesco's, from a company which is signed up to be green, you've got to be green as well. You've got to be sustainable as well. Otherwise, you won't win the business. If you want the business, it's not just about having the right product, the right price, but you've also got to show that you're sustainable, that you're paying a minimum wage, that you're not exploiting scarce resources, that what you're providing is sustainable. So it is an important area, it pays to be good. It's the right thing to do, but it pays to be good. Has this been examined? Yes. Will this be examined again? Yes. So let's have a look at a question that has been asked in the past, which relates to this topic. And you should be able to see that question on the screen now. Now, the requirement is in bold. And the requirement simply says, discuss why the disclosure of, oh, help. What's happened? Can you hear me? Have we had a problem? Have we had an outage? Hello? Something has gone wrong at my end. I don't know whether you can see me. I don't know whether you can hear me. I am really sorry, but I don't know what's happened. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How annoying. Come on, solve yourself. Is that better? Something is played up and I am unable to make any contact with you. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue, and then I will be sending you a copy of the recording so that you will be able to benefit from it. It may be that you can hear me. It may be that you can't hear me. I don't know, because something has gone wrong at my end, and I apologize. So this is the exam question. Discuss why the disclosure of sustainable information has become an important and influential consideration. Now, that is worth 8 marks. It was worth 8 marks. And if we're going to answer a question like this, we've got access to the examiner's answer. Now, the examiner's answer here is crazy. Those of you who know me know that I don't necessarily teach from the examiner's answer, because there's no point in me reading out the examiner's answer, because the examiner's answer, it's not wrong. Of course it's not wrong, but it's not what I can produce, what you can produce in exam conditions. And that's why answers are expert marked. So there's a discussion here, there's an answer here, which is well worth reading, and it's up there on the screen. And if you're listening to this on a recording, you can press pause and you can read it word for word for word. But I guarantee that no one in the exam answered the question using these words at all. Obviously not. And yet a marker had to mark the answers that students gave. And the marking guide that they were using was pretty slim. 8 marks. That's why we have professional markers. Now, what I have done is to produce an answer to this question. And I want you to think and reflect on what this answer is worth. And the requirement of the question is to discuss why the disclosure of sustainable information has become an important part and influential consideration for investors. And the first part of this requirement relates to why it's important. And it's important because some investors have ethical values. All right. Now you can see there are some spelling mistakes there, but this exam is not about spelling at all. This exam is about communicating the principles. There's a second part to the answer. There's a third part to the answer. And there's a fourth part to the answer. And I'd like you to read them. And I'd like you to read them thinking about how many marks out of 8 you would give. Now, I did this on a session earlier. I've now lost everybody. I can't see people. And I had answers in the chat box which ranged from 0 to 7. Some people said my answer was worth 0. Other people said it was worth 7. It was quite interesting. Now, on reflection, that first paragraph to me is worth a mark. Why is it important? Because life is not all about money. Why is it important? Because ethics is involved. Yeah, and I think that is worth a mark. I also think it's worth a mark to talk about these disclosures meeting the information needs of users. That's why it's important. And I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to this answer and also give it a mark to talk about the fact that it would be better if it was to do with if there were consistency and comparability and regulation. Now, this statement here, the cash flow statement, is a useful place for investors to look at because cash is necessary for going concern. It's true, it is a useful place for investors to look at. Investors want dividends, but it's not answering the question. And I don't see that is worth a mark. What I do see is that talking about the future and the fact that some companies have, look, this answer is not perfect, but it's something. And in the exam, you have to write something. If you write nothing, I guarantee you will get no marks. It's obvious. And you're going to pass or fail this exam, not on the groups, not on the ethics. Most students do really well on that area, but it's on the accounting standards, it's on the waffle, it's on the harder areas, it's on the current issues. And that's the sort of thing that I'm trying to get across to you today, giving you the confidence to have a go, giving you the confidence, to have a go. And, my marking service, if you sign up for my mock exam, you will get constructive feedback as to how well you're doing. Now, the second part of this exercise is for me to take you through a live question. And what I want to do here is to show you the practice platform and to work one of the questions. And it's from the September-December exam. So let's resume having a look at this question. And so this is the practice platform. I know some of you are not familiar with it. Horrible question, Sugar, massive cash flow question. Ethics, quite a lovely question there. Corbell's okay. But it was Hanford that I wanted to spend a little bit of time thinking about, looking at. And look, some of you are more familiar with the practice platform than others. But you've got here some basic information about the company. You've got an exhibit about employee benefits. And the first thing I really want to do is read the requirement. Now, funnily enough, I don't read the requirement in the requirement section. What I do is I control copy, and I get rid of that. And then I open up my answer, my word response area, and I control V and I dump it in there, and then I have to reformat it. And I'm very comfortable at leaving this information in front of me so that I can answer the question. I can keep on making sure that I'm answering the question as it has been actually set. So this is a question where the first requirement is to discuss the nature of IFRS for SMEs and the principal differences. 4 marks. Can be argued that small and medium-sized entities facing financial difficulties, there's a serious information asymmetry. Whatever that is. Information asymmetry. What I do notice in this question, is that I don't have to deal with any other other exhibits. If I look at that exhibit is to do with pensions. So this is a freestanding question, all right? Because there is no need to refer to a specific exhibit when answering this question. And I have professional marks at stake as well. So effectively, this is a 4, 4, 5. So this is a 15-mark question. If it's a 15-mark question, then this question is, the equivalent of something like 27 minutes if I were to give it my full all. So we've got to come up with a reasonable answer. Now, if we're going to discuss the nature of IFRS for FMEs and the principal differences, then I've got that lovely keyword of and. So part of me is going to think about discussing the nature, and part of me is going to be talking about the differences. And I'm recording this, and so I will send you a copy of the recording. There's obviously been some technical issue earlier on. So bear with me, and I will be sending out a copy of this. I have tried to re-engage, but I am recording it, so I will send it out. Now, if I'm going to talk about the nature of IFRS for SMEs. So what is that about? And the differences between IFRS for SMEs and the full accounting standards. 4 marks means I'm going to try and think of 4 things to say. Now, when it comes to the nature, I guess what we're looking at really here is simpler financial accounting standards, because there's no public interest. That's the nature of it, isn't it? It's going to be cheaper to prepare. And the differences, well, what sort of differences do we have? The differences are, well, maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but certain standards are not relevant. So certain standards are omitted. There will be less disclosures. And, there's different measurement issues. So we write off goodwill over 10 years. Now, what I do is I kind of do this memory dump business, and then I'll go back and I will sort of edit my own answer. All right, because you don't really want to write in these very short bullet point forms, but that's the way my head works. So the nature, simpler, So how would I expand this? IFRS for SMEs is simpler regulation. as the businesses is simpler regulation. Full stop. This is appropriate as there are fewer users and no public interest. So we haven't got to protect the public. It will be cheaper and easier to prepare such accounts. It'll be cheaper and easier to prepare such account. Yeah. So yeah, that's the nature of it. Now, what are the differences? Well, the differences include certain standards are not relevant. Yeah. So for example, and I'm typing this out, for example, there's no earnings per share. You don't have to comply with earnings per share or segmental reporting. So that, you know, that's not part of it. Less disclosures, and we write off goodwill over 10 years and only measure as a proportion of net assets. There's no fair value of NCI. We write off goodwill over 10 years. If you want to expand that, instead of an annual impairment review. Now, the point is, this answer that I'm giving you is worth 4 out of 4. And it comes from, yeah, comes from my head. It comes from trying to answer the question. Now, the next part of the question causes me a nightmare because I don't really understand the words. Discuss the effect of the information asymmetry. Discuss the effect of the information asymmetry can have on the decision to invest in SMEs. Now, in order for that to apply, what I've got to do is to understand what information asymmetry means. And that's not a phrase that's in my notes. It's not a phrase in my vocabulary. It's a challenge in the exam to overcome. But that's why we've got this information up here. Because if you go back and read the information, it can be argued that SMEs facing difficulties because there is a serious information asymmetry between SMEs and investors. Information asymmetry in the context of SMEs means that SMEs have access to information while the investor suffers from a lack of information. So what we're saying here is that information asymmetry means that there's not equality, that the company, the SME itself, has access to information. It knows who it's selling to. It knows the segments. It knows everything about the company, has management accounts, has budgets. It knows its strategy. But the investor suffers from a lack of relevant information because the investor only gets external information published. So discuss the effect that information asymmetry can have on the decision to invest. It means that there is less information for investors, that investors are getting effectively incomplete and not comparable information because they're only getting, they're getting minimal disclosures. They're not getting the segmental report. So I think this means that we have a greater risk. If we're an investor, then we have less understanding and greater risk. And ultimately, that surely means that we're less likely to invest. Yeah. And what I do is I do this dump. This is my brain working. You're seeing me at work. Discuss the effect that the information asymmetry can have. Yeah. So I go back and I would edit. I would say, because the IFRS for SMEs is simpler, it means there is less information for investors when they are considering buying shares in the business. That's a proper sentence, isn't it? Yeah. Full stop, leave a space, new paragraph. The accounts are therefore arguably incomplete and not comparable. Are arguably incomplete. They do not disclose. They do not disclose segmental performance. They are not comparable to companies who produce full accounts. Yeah. As a result, there's less understanding. As a result, the investor has less understanding. This means there is a greater risk when it comes to making an investment decision. Because what is the requirement of the question? How does it affect, how does this lack of knowledge, how does the fact that the company knows more about its affairs than I'm buying it, how does that have a decision? How does that have an impact, an effect on the decision? It's going to make me, we're all risk averse, we all want certainty. Yeah. This may mean that the company is less likely to invest. Investors want certainty. Yeah. So this may mean that it's not the companies, it's the investor. So it's a lovely thing. Yeah. You've got to get used to this system. Now, that's me. If I'm looking at a 4-mark question, yeah, if I'm looking at a 4-mark question, then I'm looking here for 4 marks. I'm thinking this is worth 7 minutes. Yeah. And I'm thinking to try and make 4 points. And I think I've done that. I really do think, okay, have I got 4 out of 4? Would you give it 4 out of 4? Kind of, I would. But it's you're getting 3 out of 4 for sure. And I don't care about utter perfection. I care about writing something down and spending some time in building an answer. And then you've got a very normal or a very kind of standard discussion about how wonderful integrated reporting is. And of course, integrated reporting is wonderful. And you need to be able to write about that. So look, that's what I wanted to show you, the practice platform, answering a question on the practice platform. This is a this part of the question didn't require us to use the spreadsheet, you know, what you have with the other requirement here is a story around the employee benefits. So, you know, if you're going to be using the employee benefits and you've got the numbers there and you want to do some calculations on your spreadsheet, you know, then you're going to have to manipulate and use that spreadsheet and understand how the functionality and use the figures there. Or you might want to use the calculator. You might want to, instead of using the spreadsheet, you might want to use the calculator, use it as, and you've got to be comfortable and you've got to come up with your own strategies and timing about how you navigate through, how you go back to question 1, which you haven't attempted, which is on cash flow, So some of you are using the practice platform, brilliant. Some of you are going to use the practice platform, brilliant, because you're going to be doing the exam using exactly the same functionality. So back I go, forward I go. Something that I wanted to simply share with you is the fact that the symbol on the right is Spotify. You will find my podcasts, Clendon, Clemdon, ACC. You'll find I have podcasts on over 30 of them on different topics relating to SBR. I'm also very active on LinkedIn. I would like you to seriously consider signing up for my mock examination. I really would. Because I believe that mock examination is an amazing opportunity for you to do a question on the practice platform during the final weekend. Before the 27th, 28th, the final weekend of the month. It's set on the practice platform. By signing up, you get full WhatsApp support. Not only do you get to do a fresh set of questions, not only are they marked, but they're given feedback, and you get a video debrief, making sure that you understand how that is all put together. So how the marks will be earned. I am really sorry that not everybody was, I was not able to see you or to see the chat or for you to engage in this session. Something in the live process went wrong halfway through. I don't know what that was, but I have taken a recording of this and this will be circulated to everybody who signed up for the session. So thank you very much for listening. God bless and good night. So annoying.